your service department, bolster your bottom line with Sage Service Operations. For Sage 100 Contractor, thank you, Syscon, for putting this together. I'm going to go ahead and talk today about how Sage Service Operations can really expand upon your 100 Contractors service work order capabilities, allowing your technicians to access things out in the field and drive all their information back into 100 Contractor quickly and easily and seamlessly as we go through there today. Part of this, I will go through a couple slideshows talking about some of the research we've done and benefits we can see on here and how this product at a more conceptual level will be able to work for you. But I won't spend too much time on slideshows. I'll come back and jump into the actual product and show you guys what it's all about, what it can do for you. The other nice thing is we have, if you have seen this product before in any shape or form, do know we have a new user interface now, and you'll get to see that new one today, and it's really slick, so I'll get to show you that as a first look for the Sage 100 Contractor people. So some of the common concerns that we've seen in the service and specialty contractor market, and I won't read through all of these necessarily, but the idea is we see a lot of contractors say, especially those that are using on-premise softwares exclusively, not be able to get a lot of the information that they need from the field back into the office. This leads to inefficient dispatching as you have to dispatch out people and then send them an email and hopefully they'll get all the information they need in that, or you have technicians that are out in the field and they are going off a sheet that somebody gave them in the morning and they never got an update and know that this next work order is canceled or this other one's a priority. So no real-time data moving back and forth. This also includes service history and information that they could be looking up for the client. We see sales opportunities potentially missed as well. A lot of people today say, hey, my technicians go out there with their sheets of paper. They need to get things filled out. If they see something that needs to be quoted out, they'll write it up on a piece of paper and they'll give it back to the office when they're next in. Those pieces of paper, though, sometimes they go missing, sometimes it falls to the bottom of the truck, or sometimes it gets back to the office and someone says, and puts it away. So missed opportunities in the field for potential sales as they come through. This also, of course, has, with the paper and the trucks and the people bringing everything out, a potential for lack of insight into department profitability. And what I really mean by that is it is not real time what's going on. Your technicians, at the best, can get things in at the end of the day when they come back to the office and then somebody enters in everything they do. But on average, or at worst, you're going to see things go 3 days before they're entered in the office, or up to a week. So lots of potential lack of insight in that side because you don't know what's happened in the last couple days or in the last couple hours. And of course, there's a lot of increased competition. Ever since the downturn of the market, we've seen the construction side slow down a little bit, and people have supplemented that on the service side, which has increased competition on service. So of course, customers are demanding better and faster customer service and better customer service from you, so you can keep up with their demands. So part of the thing is when technicians don't get into the parts or information they need, they call you, have to stop the work if they can't get a hold of you. And this goes to if a customer can't create, or sorry, a technician can't create a purchase order in the field, or if they need to see some service height history, maybe some equipment history, and they don't have that information in front of them, they weren't given it to them in the morning, they have to stop work, call the office. If it's busy season, it could be a wait on the phone, and all this leads to downtime. Customers not getting stuff done, the technicians possibly going to miss their next job, and little pieces like that. And so these problems can mount on that side, and in fact, when they get to the point where they need to fill out paperwork, there's a lot of it. We could see paper coming in, the service work orders, which can sometimes be on triplicate form. We're talking about different forms, warranty information they have to fill out, safety checklists. All these paper stack up in a technician's binders. They can sit in trucks, as we talked about earlier. But more importantly, this paper costs money. And all of the paper added up, you could end up with hundreds of pieces of paper flowing through a single technician for a single week, depending on the type of work they're doing and where they're going from. And every sheet of paper is going to have a price on it. So keep that in mind as you are looking at a potential paperless solution for getting your technicians out there. So Sage Construction, or Sage 100 Contractor, creates a solid foundation for your accounting system. We have a work order system to track and dispatch out and see exactly what's going on the work order side, as well as being able to bill it out at the end of the day. And what Sage Service Operation does is bridges the gap between your on-premise Sage 100 system and your technicians out in the field. We allow for your technicians with Sage Service Operations to fully see everything that's going on. In fact, that's kind of this next slide here. Fully see what's going on. They can do their work live, real time, from an iPad, from a smartphone, from a laptop, and all the information flows right back in your Sage 100 Contractor, so you can bill immediately. Everything, it becomes live, and there's no more downtime. So Sage Service Operations, it is a website-based software. So you don't have to have a certain type of device. Any internet or wireless related device will be able to handle it. And by the way, this is the old look and feel. We'll see the new one here in a minute. But the idea is Sage Service Operations can really let your technicians do the jobs they're supposed to do, give them the latest technology to where they can fill in, get things taken care of back to the office without having to stop and ask for work. So let's go ahead, and here's a little slideshow talking about some of the normal workflows, basically taking us from a quote to a work order throughout. But let's actually stop and look at the software at this point. So as we point out, Sage Service Operations piggybacks off the work orders in Sage 100 Contractor. And on a technical level, for those of you that are on that side, we do not have separate databases between the web portal here with your Sage Service Operations and with 100 Contractor. Everything is live as we go through this, and I'll show some examples as we're in this. So anyone asking, what if we do inputs and output, or imports and exports, it's none of that. Everything's going to be live in the database. What Sage Service Operations does for your technicians is it gives them a place to come in and see their assigned work orders for the week or for the day, and this also works as a weekly time card as well. So your technician's logging in and can see, like yesterday, I had 8 hours worth of work, 2 hours of office work, 3 hours of landscaping at Lamb Shoes, and 3 hours of landscaping at Hotel Inc. All this translates to time that's being sent back into Sage 100 Contractor's daily payroll, so you can have your technicians fill out their time cards, get everything done, and not have to re-enter that time at the end of the day. We'll get back to more of that in a minute when we get through one of our work orders here. But before we actually jump into a work order, I want to switch roles for a quick moment over to our dispatcher. 100 Contractor has a real nice and easy to use dispatch board in the software, but we also give you one available out in the cloud. This cloud version works in conjunction, so you can use one or the other or both. And the idea is it gives you it in the way that you could see all of your work orders. Now, I'm purposely telling it to show only those that have been unassigned, so I can then grab them and put them on a particular person for the day. And I can also see down in here a map and allow me to zoom in and zoom out and kind of see exactly where all my work orders are at a given time. This recent activity as well can take your information and puts map locations as you start, stop jobs and travel to and from places or suspend them. This allows you to timestamp and geostamp where your people are when they're starting their work and when they're ending the work, in case anyone's flown off to go to Starbucks and says, oh, it's okay if I take an extra half hour and get billed for it. So we want to make sure we stamp where everyone's at, and we can make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to. So we have a full dispatch board available on the cloud for your people, and this can not just do day view, but we can go week view, 2-week view, month view, and look out there and see exactly what's sitting for us. Let's jump into an assignment here. So today I've got some work orders scheduled for myself, and we'll come over here and look, and I've got a test one here, and I've got the HVAC. So let's go and jump into HVAC. Now before I do, say before I drive out there, I want to make sure I have everything I need before I get to this job to do this work. I can actually click on the Postmaster Williams name here. That's where I'm going. And it'll actually give me all of the site history that's in the system. So I can see my work orders. I can see all the different descriptions. I can drill down to them as necessary. And this will let me see everything that's going on. So if I'm a technician, and I could say, hey, the last several times we've had the same issue kind of reoccur over and over, maybe I'll bring some extra tools. Maybe I'll do a little bit more in depth. Gives me all the opportunity to make sure those decisions are being made properly. I can pop over and see if they have multiple locations, if they have an equipment they're working on, the client's detail and the directions to the client. And I can also see if we put any quotes in the system. We'll talk more about quotes in a little bit here, but the quotes will allow you to say, hey, here's an official information saying they have this need, and we can then track it and follow up on those. We can see all the contacts, if we have any service agreements, and any attachments. I don't have a lot of data put on this particular one, but the information is all there, ready to go. So let's jump over to that work order we were looking at for today and do some work. Now, one thing to note, I'm using a full website here to show you what it would look like on a laptop. But I'll tell you, this site works just as well if you're working off a tablet or a smartphone. If I shrink this up, you'll see that it moves everything in line. So as a tablet, using a screen about this size, I could see all my work order pieces, my overview. I can add new equipment or whatnot. But if I happen to be working on a smartphone, using this will actually zip up. And as you can see, as I'm moving things around, you're getting it exactly how you want to see it. But on a smartphone with a smaller screen, you're going to get these as buttons that you can press. So it makes things simpler on a smartphone. I want to click over and say, oh yes, I'm going to start my assignment here. And I can travel start or assignment start, and stamping those as a smartphone. So let's take a couple minutes here as a smartphone user and actually do some work. And then we'll flip back over to the big view, just so it's more appropriate for a WebEx typically. So I went ahead and started this assignment. I can say, here are my notes that I've done on here, and maybe I've reset a breaker, and we can create all of our custom notes in the system based on the different types of work you're doing. And you as a owner of the software can pre-fill those so your technicians don't have to type everything in and all that information. They can have everything pre-fill, and they can even put internal notes such as started late, getting back late. And that would be something you can then email over to your dispatcher or to a project manager or who else. And we can submit those notes and send them off. All right, let's go ahead and flip back over. So the smartphones can allow you to see all the information in a more compact, easier, button-friendly version that smartphones give you. But going back to the large view, so we can all see things a little bit clearer, and this will be more how you look at it on a tablet, we can then go ahead and keep going. So put in all my notes. We've got our hours here, and we're going to say, I worked this many hours, and maybe my coworker Jim and Scott, they also worked with me on this, and I'm the leader of this crew, so I'm going to put all of our hours in here. And so we've all worked 2 hours each, and we all did concrete. And so we got that in here. Actually, being, what did I say we're doing, HVAC? Let's do HVAC. So come in here, 2 hours of labor, but of course we're going to bill for 4. Let's just say it's me and Scott. And so the billables will come through here, and we can then say, we worked for 2 hours each, but we're going to bill for 4 because there's 4 of us. Or if you have some certain types of setups, you can do that. Typically, if it's a single person, I work 2 hours, I'm billing for 2 hours. And the nice thing about this is we're putting this all in as a technician out in the field for this work order, but we're going to have, and you'll see that in a minute here, the customer verify all this information for us. So there's always that checks and balances that are going on. I also want to point out this time I just stuck in for the payroll is going to flow back into our daily payroll automatically. In fact, if I open up Sage 100 Contractor and I open up daily payroll, you'll see that time has been put in here for that. And well, up here, it's coming off on another monitor. I might have to jump back over that here in a minute. Let me verify. We'll come back. I'll load that up in a second here. I got to figure out what's my 100's pulling up off my screen. But let's finish off this work order, and then we'll go look at that here. So see, we want to pull up some assembly parts. We can do a quick lookup here. So if I want to start typing in some different information and see what we got here, let's go with everything but the kitchen sink. Let's do the kitchen sink this time. We're going to put in any prices, and if we have rate tables, we can pull those right from the rate tables. I'm going to say this is $100 just to save some time, but your rate tables will typically pick that up on that assembly and put those appropriate values in there. If you have inventory parts as opposed to assemblies, we can do that. And we can even do miscellaneous items. So if you're not tracking inventory in one under contractor and you just need to give it the work you're doing, you can do that as well. We have an attachment piece as well, so I can say, hey, let's add some attachments, and we can, using a smartphone or a tablet, we can actually take pictures right there from the camera and do a before and an after of the work we did, and all that can be attached to this work and make sure that's all done. And at the end of the day, I can come into my service reports and do some reporting. But before I do that, what I'm going to do real fast is create a PO. Because in this scenario, this technician found that they were missing some parts. We need to go buy some more parts for this particular place, and I need to run over and go to my vendor. So I can actually do a new PO in here, and this will create a purchase order that's tied to the work order and allow your accounting department or your accounts payable department to see exactly what was done and get those POs and everything in the system. So I'll go ahead and say is vendor 100, which in my system is, let's do Bailey Power Company to be easy there. I can put a description of everything I bought, create the PO. And then this will allow me to, as a technician, if I wanted to be very basic and say, here's everything I bought, here's a dollar figure, I could do that. A lot of people don't want their technician filling out all the different pieces, but they can absolutely do that if they need to. And the idea is the site will let me fill out all my different items that I purchase. So I could say I'm adding a miscellaneous item, I'm buying a AC unit or a compressor, let's say, and I'm going to go ahead and buy that for $50. And I can save a new and keep creating new items that I'm doing. All these items can then be put onto my work order as well, or put right back into my truck as a item that I purchased for my truck. Once everything's been done, we go back to our work order. We can then see on that work order that we have a purchase order attached to it. And what I typically say is go ahead at that point on your work order and actually take a picture of your receipt and put that in the attachment section. And that'll let your, and then that'll system will allow you to email that over to the AP person, and then we have a receipt sent from the field back to the person in AP to take care of all that. We'll go ahead and fill out our reports here. And before I do my main service report, note that you can have custom forms created. Everyone has their own different pieces of paper that they need to put into the system, whether they're warranty report lists, safety checklist, payment forms, device listings. All these stuff can be created and done as a custom form. So as an example, a safety checklist be built out to say I need to go do check mark these multiple different areas as I go through. And so pulling up one right now, this one's a very basic one someone created, just a safety checklist form, and I could submit it. Actually, let me go run a different one that I think has a little bit more information on it. Let's go back to my reports and run this safety checklist. And I can say this safety checklist will show the work order, the address. I can start checking off things as they come through, have drop-down items, capture a signature, and all this can be submitted and will be saved onto the site and available for anyone looking at this work order. And this can then be that documentation you can hand over if you ever have a safety audit and you need to say, are my people taking care of this? Yes, they can. And this can be completely customized to however you want it. We have a very easy-to-use report designer built right into the field, the cloud out here, that you can then access and build these out as needed. Yes, I'd like to keep using the new design. Jumping back over into my work order, we'll do the what I usually call the most important part. Everything's the most important part, of course. You want to make sure your times are being captured. You want to make sure your parts are getting captured. But you also want to make sure that your customer is being given the details appropriately so that when they sign off, everything is valid. And so the service report is a customizable report that will show you everything that's going on. In this case, it'll tell me the work performed. I can pull this up on my tablet and hand this to the customer and say, please review this, so they can see the kitchen sink they got, the 4 hours of labor we put in. They can put in their email address, their name. They can say, yes, this is complete or not, and then at the end of the day, sign it off and accept the agreement. This agreement then is emailed to them. It's saved on the site. It's saved on the work order in Sage 100 Contractor, and it's sent back over into or emailed over to the person who's in charge of billing, so they know that this work order is done. And now I realize why my 100 Contractor wasn't working. I'm running mine off a virtual machine, and I was using my local copy. Let me get logged in there and show you guys what this looks like. Pulling it up right now. So that time that I'd sent over earlier in my daily payroll entry, here it is, myself and my crew member for the job that we worked on, tied back to the work order, to the cost code I told it to, what my hours are. It's all ready to go on the time front. And if I pull up that work order 88 that we just worked on, I can see the labor, the 4 hours there, the kitchen sink that we put on. I can see all the different pieces that we did, including the notes. You know, here's my yellow notes, my blue notes are there. And my attachment has that service report put onto it. So everything is alive in the system as we went. I was doing this as a technician, and what used to be filling it out on a piece of paper and then having to get back to the office in a day or two, now is alive. The person in the office receives the email with the PDF document saying everything's been signed off and done, and then all they need to do is come in here and verify, okay, actually, you know, that we're charging a little bit more for this one, and the kitchen sinks, that's a good price. They can make any changes they need to, and then bill this out, post this record, done. Now I've got my billing created. I can then email that over to them, and we have a live bill in the system, all done within minutes if we wanted to, of a work order being completed. This will really save time in the long run, as well as make sure we get that revenue back quickly. And because this is all live, if I run any reports in 100 Contractor about my work orders, all the information I know of is up to date at any given time, because our technicians are always entering it as they're doing the work. Just a lot more ways to be productive in our system there. Now, kind of coming back here, I want to touch on a couple extra pieces. We went through what is probably 80–90% of what your technician would be doing on a day-to-day basis, but there's also some extra cases out there that might come up, such as they see some other work that needs to be done and we need to capture a quote. And so our system allows us to create a quote and tie it to the work order, and it'll save that in and let us track that information. So if you have anyone who sees, you know, we're working on the HVAC and maybe we also happen to do roofing, and we see their roof needs to be replaced, I can say here, roofing inspection. And so we could say, hey, I'm going to have someone contact you about a quote about a roofing inspection. And I can come in here, put any comments back to the office about this, descriptions of what we see. How do we want to, you know, do the quote? Is this grouped by type? Do we want to hide item prices? Do I want to show those? Email back someone in the office and generate that quote. This could be something very basic that the technician just fills out and is done with. In fact, that's how most technicians will do it. They put in all the information, they email the office, and they say someone else will take care of it. That someone else would then log into this log into the cloud, into Sage Service Operations, open up the quote, and they can then put in that extra information. So they can see it all here, and if you have your own quoting software, that's fine too. But we have a full quoting software, so I can actually come in here and say, oh yeah, this is going to take 10 hours, or let's say 8 hours of regular time. This is going to maybe do some overtime. This will pull from my labor rate table, which I, of course, have not set up. But let's go ahead and say that's $250 of an hour to work on this. Maybe there's multiple people, a whole crew that's coming out there. So we'll put in the labor, we'll put in any notes, we'll put in any miscellaneous or parts that are going to need to come in here, and I can add any attachments and go in that route. My internet's running a little slow right now. Give it just a minute. There we go. And I can say we also have some miscellaneous items that are going to go into this. Roofing materials.
Hello?
Was there a question?
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, this is the console. I have you on hold. Who are you holding for?
I think we're in the middle of a webcast.
I don't know why that happened.
I don't know what happened. It's been on hold. All right, I'll put you back on hold. Sorry.
That's okay. So we'll go ahead and do our roofing materials. I'm just going to go ahead and give it some generic numbers here. Say it's $1,000, and we're going to mark that up 50%. Save. Hey, Brian, are we able to mute that line?
You know what? I just looked for it. I don't. It also said was phone caller on there, and I can't see it. So hopefully that was the last interruption. I'll keep looking for it, but I have everybody muted. That's the odd thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
So I've got my labor, got my roofing. Again, this doesn't have to be the person, the technician. This could be someone back in the office logging into the screen, because again, a lot of this is technical on the sales side, and your technicians may not be those people. But once somebody has this, they can review it. We have a review screen here to make sure that you're being profitable on here, so you can see your unit costs, what your sales costs are, what your margin and profit are, and this helps because if there's anything negative on here, you don't want to be creating a quote that's going to cost you money. So we want to make sure we're profitable, and at that point we just go ahead and send the email and send this over to the customer. Say, here's your official quote. And then if they ever do decide to go with this quote, we open this back up and we can actually turn this into a work order. And that'll allow us to edit the properties of it, make it into a work order, and then assign this out so everyone can have access. Jumping back over to our assignments page, I briefly talked about this a couple times, but the idea of this also being not only their assignments, but their weekly time card. We could see all the different times throughout the week, and at the end of the week, they can report all their time is accurate, do any van mileage, any notes, like took all breaks and lunches, and then submit their hours. So this will give us all that information to go through, and this will give us a place as well to review it, because your supervisors can come in and review the timesheet reports on here and make any corrections before we actually turn those into full-time cards. One last piece about this software here, and then we'll kind of get into a couple more slides and some Q&A. If you guys do daily field reports, if you have a construction division, this can also allow you to create daily field reports as well. So say if I want to go to my Williams Post Office here and do some daily field report work, this, by the way, will integrate directly with the daily field reports in 100 Contractor. I can come in and put in all that same information that I would do in the 610, I have to go look at the exact number, but the screen in 100 Contractor to match up with it. And I can say, okay, we're coming in here, do a daily field report for today, generate that report, and say, okay, here's who's reporting it, the weather today, balmy, which we always like, 85 degrees, and any user defines that we have on the Sage 100 Contractor side. I generate that daily field report, and then gives me the opportunity to put in all the information. A lot of people ask, can I capture equipment or units on here? Absolutely. It's got the same information that the 100 Contractor has in its daily field reports. So I could come over here and put in my construction labor for the day. So maybe me and my 3 crew members all worked on some mechanical today on a construction job, and we did that for 3 hours. And so we can put all that in and capture construction hours. It doesn't have to be tied to a work order. I can come in and say if there's any incidents, subcontractors that came out, meeting minutes, equipment, and as them putting out units. All these are capturable on a daily field report, as well as the ability to generate the daily field report and actually take a look at it. All this stuff's being sent back into 100 Contractor as a daily field report, as well as showing up on my assignments page as a time entry for my weekly time card. And I can always jump back in there and make modifications as necessary. So lots of different ways we can use the software, many different edge cases as well, but primarily the main goal of this is to make your technicians or give your technicians the ability to do all the work they would normally do on paper and track and have to call, all automated, all available on their smartphones or on their tablets, so that at the end of the day they become more profitable and are able to get everything live back in the system as we do it. So let's see a quote from Ken Fleck, Vice President of Modern Niagara. It's a large mechanical design, build, and service contractor in Canada that has been using the Sage Service Operations with us. And they said, previously our technicians often placed several calls back to the office to get details about the customer, the building, the service request, or the equipment. And Sage Service Operations puts all that information back into their hands, and we've reduced the administrative burden and enabled everyone to be more productive. And I find this just as a powerful quote to note that this is something that works for any size company, even a small mom and pop company that has just a couple technicians that are out there. We can use this to get everything live and going. And you can even scale it up to the hundreds of technicians and be able to transmit all that information back, which gives you even more variable information into what's going on in your company. So at this point, I'm going to do some Q&A. I'll leave this up on the screen as well. This has some contact information for Brian at Syscon, or email me if you have any technical questions beyond that. But I'd really like to see some questions out there that might have come up. Brian, was there anything that came into chat before we open up the lines?
No, I didn't get any questions in chat, but I did unmute everybody. So if anybody wants to go ahead and ask a question now, it's open.
Well, I have a question. This is Karen Johnson from Roughneck Concrete.
Hello.
We use vehicle tracking,
Mm-hmm.
and we use it also to monitor the hours of our personnel in the field.
Okay.
And is there any way that this module would incorporate that? It doesn't appear to on at face value.
Right. So we actually have integration with Fleetmatics. That's the only one we have integration with. Does that happen to be the one you're using by chance?
No.
All right. So we do have integration with Fleetmatics. That is, unfortunately, that is the only one, but Fleetmatics will allow us to work through the dispatch board to see exactly where your trucks are on the dispatch board. So while you're dispatching out, you'll know who's closest to the jobs and where people are at any given time. It doesn't do that on the time card side. We do have a, and I didn't bring this up because there's kind of two ways to go about it, and I went with the more common of the two. But through our site, you can actually do start and stop time for your people as opposed to just writing in the numbers. And that's something that a lot of people don't go with just because they haven't got that complete trust that their person are going to click the button every single time. But if you have that trust with your technicians that they're going to come in there and press the button right when they start and press the button right when they stop, you can absolutely come in and say, hey, I'm going to start my time, and then when I complete my time, it'll send that exact time frame from when they started and when they stopped back to payroll, as well as geostamp into exactly where they were when that happened. So these assignments can become your time card entry. When I complete the assignments, they save my payroll entry, and that's now my time. So we have two different ways to do it in the software, is if you're going to be start and stop, or if you want to just put the straight numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Vincent, I got one here. Does the daily job report tie back to job numbers or only service numbers?
The daily field report actually ties back to job numbers. So while the site is primarily designed around service, the jobs section here is completely construction related. Now it is only daily field reports at this time, but the job listing will pull from your 3-5 jobs and allow you to create your daily field reports and do pure time entry and job time and all that for the jobs. Great question.
And is this an upgrade to your current service module, to Sage's current service?
It's not an upgrade, it's an extension would be the better word to say. You still need the service module, the service receivables module, in order to be the background of this. It's where the data is created, the parts are maintained in your 100 contractor database, the work orders are billed out of the service receivables module. This extends it so your technicians have full access out in the field to the data that they need to see.
So Karen, it's web-based. This is Kathy. It's web-based,
Kathy.
and it has a connector. Hi. It has a connector back to the installation at your office on your server. So that's what makes the data live, going back and forth. But it is something that is through the internet, and it's set up with a connection to your specific software and your data set at your office. And then the payments and things like that are all associated with the number of users and the modules that you're using from this. So it's an add-on. Think of it that way.
Okay.
Any other questions out there?
Boy, Vincent, you did a good job with only 3 questions.
Yeah, I try to be thorough, but you know, it also could have been I put people to sleep. Hopefully, not the latter.
There you go.
Well,
Anybody else? No? All right. Well, thanks a lot, Vincent. We appreciate your time. Like Vincent said, if anybody has any other questions or wants to see pricing on the product, please feel free to call me at the office. The number's right there up there on the screen, and I will be sending out a follow-up email to everybody that attended, and you'll have my email address from that too. All right?
Real quick, I did see one last question that came through, though. It said, can you restrict access to certain aspects of the website? That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. Yes, you can. In fact, I'll get a little bit of detail on here. You can create your list of users of who has access to the site, and every user can have their own set of permissions throughout here. So if I wanted to make Scott or allow Scott to create quotes or purchase orders or give him a limit on his purchase orders, whether they can create their own work orders themselves or they have to use work orders that were assigned to them. We're very flexible on the security and access that you can give your different people so that more trusted technicians can do more and newer people can get their information into the system as well. Great question, and thank you for that.
Great. All right. Is that it? All right. Thanks again, everybody. You have a great weekend.
Have a
Thanks
great
again,
day.
Vincent.